that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, between my brethren kind and good. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. That I will achieve, because I do the things I should.
Oh yes, my Straight Talk family, it's time for me to say very pleasant night to you wherever you are in St. Kitts and Nevis, and wherever you are throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean region, and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk. We are normally joined by our sister station Win FM 98.9 on the FM dial, and it's time for me to really reach out and touch all of our people in the Kittitian and Nevisian diaspora all over the world. I know that some of you are in Africa, there's some of you in Europe, some of you are in Asia, and there are a whole lot of you all over North America. So I'm at liberty to say good night. I can't say good morning, and I will say good afternoon, because one of such greetings will be applicable to the region in which you now find yourselves. Straight Talk, for those of you who may be joining me for the first time, it's a public service program that facilitates and promotes free expression on all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, you do have a forum to express yourselves free. Let's in the process try to keep St. Kitts and Nevis as one of the freest countries in the entire world. On this program, we try to raise the level of national consciousness. We try to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you in conversation, my Straight Talk family, on yet another occasion. And tonight, in the process, I want to, as per usual, we reflect on our observations in review, as we call it, because since our last conversation, nonetheless, Parliament convened, and since Parliament convened, I should say, we recall on the last week, Thursday, the 27th of October, Parliamentary had its first sitting of Parliament, I should say, and I can now report that opposition leader Mark Brantley obviously took my advice and reviewed the important role that he would have to play in the National Assembly over the next 5 years. I must therefore commend Brantley. Yes, I commend Brantley for his maturity, because through his interventions, he demonstrated that the opposition in Parliament is key to a functional democracy. Or should I say, at least he did that for the first sitting or the last sitting. For those of you who may be wondering what I am speaking about, So for your benefit, I refer to a comment made by Brantley in which he declared that his intention as opposition leader was to fight for Nevis.
And to engage respectfully with whoever occupies the chair of Prime Minister in Bastille, to say to them that the people of Nevis deserve to be treated equally in this federation, deserve their fair share of the resources of the federation, and deserve the full fruits of their citizenship. I have said it, and I will continue to say it, that there are no second-class citizens here on the island of Nevis.
And yes, my Straight Dog family, by now we have agreed that the opposition is expected to provide an alternative to government policies or actions. The opposition should scrutinize the government and always hold it accountable for all its decisions. There is, however, one anomaly on the opposition benches, and I feel duty-bound to raise that anomaly here and now, with the expectation that it would be rectified at the start of the next sitting of the National Assembly. Now, Brantley himself acknowledged that he is the fourth longest serving elected representative in the National Assembly. Brantley acknowledged that he is the fourth longest serving member in the National Assembly.
Because I recall, unlike some who are saying they've come here for the first time, that I have grown old in this place. Because I came here in 2007. I've been here for 15 years. In fact, I'm the fourth longest serving parliamentarian.
Yes, he did confess or inform us that he is the fourth longest serving parliamentarian. As such, I submit that full respect must be accorded to the second longest serving elected parliamentarian or elected representative of nigh 30 years in the person of former Minister or Prime Minister Timothy Harris. And I say so because on the front row of the government benches sits the longest serving elected representative of nigh 33 years in the person of former Prime Minister and now Senior Minister, the Right Honorable Denzel Llewellyn Douglas. Whereas, on the front row of the opposition benches sit the third and fourth longest serving elected representatives in the persons of former Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards, who has served, I believe, thus far for 18 years in the Assembly, and the opposition leader, Brantley, who just said he served 15 years to date. And they sit along with the member from Nevis 9, who has only served for 2 years. It is therefore a clear demonstration of total disrespect for the second longest serving elected representative and member from St. Christopher 7 to be sitting on the back bench on the side of the opposition. I also observed similar disrespect when Senator Jones sat on the front bench at the opening session of Parliament. I submit it is wrong and must be addressed without any delay. And mark you, if that was the choice of former Prime Minister Harris and the second longest serving member in the Assembly, then it is an anomalous choice. It is inconsistent with normal parliamentary protocol. Thus, if it was not his choice, then former Prime Minister Harris, the second longest serving member, the second longest serving elected representative in the Assembly, must be accorded the full respect that he has earned over the nigh 30 years and outstanding contributions he has made in the Parliament. The country, no doubt, would always remember this high point as well of Harris.
Somebody must be brave enough to speak that basic truth and say, as one brave person said, if I perish in speaking truth to power, I perish. I perish, man. But truth must be spoken. Truth must be spoken. And that is what we are attempting to do, Mr. Speaker. That is what it is, Mr. Speaker.
And I say again, without fear of contradiction, it's normally said it's the Speaker's house or the Speaker's Parliament, and the Speaker is fresh, young, new. Then that anomaly has to be sorted out. And for the next sitting in the Parliament, I anticipate that we would see in the front bench or benches on the opposition, you'll have the second, third, and fourth longest serving members sitting on those front benches. That's how it's supposed to be. And stop the hanky-panky and respect, give respect where respect is due. Secondly, I want to also submit that as long as I have breath, as long as I am blessed rather with the breath of life, I will continue to seek out information on all issues as it relates to the governance and development and transparency within my country. I will continue to seek out information on the CBI, the Citizenship by Investment Program. I am not going to be like a palace guard. I said that before. I am not going to be like a palace guard. And I said before that in 2018, we were told that some 16,544 citizenship applications were approved, and an equal number of passports were issued by the Ministry of National Security. The former Minister of National Security had this to say.
Arabian banknote, who manages our passport, the 10,777 had been issued at the end of December 2015. And we have the revised information from the banknote, which says that up to 2015, really, the figure should have been 12,496. And the total number of CBI passports now issued stands at 16,544.
I have also said that Straight Talk has been reliably informed that since assuming office in the past 3 months, Prime Minister Drew has already signed 1,500 applications. Now, Prime Minister Drew has not denied that fact, neither has he commented, yet he touts transparency and accountability. If I continue to be persistent, forgive me, but we need to know. Furthermore, Straight Talk has been told that an overall amount of some 30,000 passports have been issued since the inception of the CBI. And this has neither been denied and or clarified by anyone. But this pattern of secrecy goes back to 2012 or before, when the SIDF option was introduced and doing well. It was introduced then by the Douglas Labour administration. And my family, that pattern of secrecy goes back, as I said, to 2012 and or before.
We are one of three options. What we get at the end of a process, the only time I know a person applies is at the end of a month when I get a form that says, Miss Hewlett, Miss John, Miss James, $250,000, that's it, period. I know nothing of the process. I've never interacted with Dr. Ballantyne during his time in office on that matter, and he's here to confirm that. I've never spoken to Ms. Pemberton since she's returned from studying. On any matter related to the process, there's no interference. Get that? There's no collaboration. I do not solicit people to come to the SADF. The application is totally done independent of the foundation. They go to a service provider. The service provider processes the application. It comes through. The due diligence is done. We have no awareness. At the end of the month is the first time that we know that Val Henry had applied, he's approved, and here's a check for $250,000, period.
That was then CEO of the SIDF, Terence Crosman, who held that secret for years for then Prime Minister Douglas. He has now resurfaced. We understand he, if not already, will be the next managing director of the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank. But truth be told, Prime Minister Harris gave the country figures up to 2018, some 4 years ago, and none thereafter. So we must now depend on Prime Minister Drew to put that wrong right. And we are requesting this information in the name of transparency and accountability. It's a new day. It's a better way. That's all we are asking for. What happened then, happened then. Let us get up to date and talk about now. In the interests of transparency and accountability, the information ought to be provided. Additionally, it must be important to us as a country to know where these 30,000 economic citizens are. Whether in Nigeria, are they in China, are they in Russia, and or some other country or countries around the world. We learned that many Russians reside in Nevis. Some are here as well. And we have seen a public clash or a public spat between a Russian lady, we are told, and some locals in Nevis. How many of us remember this? Just about 4 months ago, or 6 months ago, in sometime in April.
Inter-primary sports meet on a public beach being interfered with by a woman who sought to disrupt their use of the beach has been brought to the attention of the Nevis Island administration. Premier Brantley says he wishes to be clear that all beaches on the island of Nevis are public property and therefore free for the use and enjoyment of all members of the public. Those who visit our island or choose to live on our island are welcomed and will experience no warmer or more genuine hospitality anywhere else in the world. However, our generous hospitality must not be abused. The behavior exhibited on the video is unacceptable and offensive.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Yes, my Straight Dog family, that was an excerpt from a public spat between some locals on Nevis and, we are told, a Russian lady, Russian economic citizen. But this is one of the issues. Increasing inequalities and unequal representation of different socio-economic classes in St. Kitts and Nevis can be expected, deriving from the sale of citizenship through the CBI program. The CBI program must be run in a manner which is legal and transparent, and in keeping with the Constitution of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. This ideally could prevent corruption and would establish the sound legal right to these new citizenships. The CBI remains critical to our economic development in the context of foreign direct investment. But since its inception, it has remained a type of investment about which very little is known or understood by the average Kittitian and Nevisian. It has remained shrouded in secrecy for nigh 40 years. As I like to refer to it, it has remained a state secret. And that was my sentiment even when I served as a member of the cabinet. I challenge that, this secrecy that surrounds the CBI. For that reason, I remain adamant that the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis need to know. We need to know who are our fellow citizens and where they are coming from. We don't need to know their names. All we need to know, for example, is that there are 5,000 from Russia, 10,000 from China, 4,000 from Nigeria, for example. There are also citizens from Iran. We need to know how many Iranians still have our passports. We lost our Canadian visa-free status. Do you remember? It was sanctioned by the US. Do you recall? And we are now threatened by the European Parliament. So this information must be provided to the public. Prime Minister Drew, if you sign 1,500 citizenship applications in your first 2 months in office, let us know. We have heard that there are 30,000 passports already issued. That means 30,000 citizens in the world out there somewhere. And all we are asking for is information. Nothing else. We're not going to stop the program. We feel the program is important, but we need to know what is happening with the citizenship. Thirdly, the new Labour administration has so far fulfilled several of its many campaign promises. We can think of the gratuitous payment to those who lost their jobs because they refused to take a COVID vaccine. We can think of the honorarium just paid, I think it was last week, to 2,000 frontline workers. We can think of the free tuition fees for CFBC, that's the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College students, which has been implemented. And this, I say, is commendable. I repeat it, This, I say, is commendable. These three achievements are commendable. The government has, however, made the repealing of the COVID Act or the amendment to the Health Act, I think that's proper, and amendments to the civil aviation, also the investment legislation, they have made it their priority. But real cost of living measures are anxiously awaited by all and sundry, especially most workers who are on minimum wage. There's some 4 factories have been closed over the last couple of years. Jobs, housing, and the kitchen table issues are more important than what was introduced in the first Parliament. These bread and butter issues must be made priority. Those are our observations in review for tonight. I'm now going to address my main topic, which is a view that is being constantly touted by a certain crowd, to wit, the Harris-led government did nothing in 7 years, or unity government did nothing in 7 years. And each time I hear that proposition being peddled by this crowd, I am baffled. I am baffled because I was honored, privileged, and humbled to serve as a minister of government for 5 of those 7 years. I am also baffled by another proposition that is constantly peddled by the current Labour administration, that first they said there has been no investment. Then they modified that position to say there has been no significant investment. And the latest I heard them saying is there has been no major investment in St. Kitts over the last 7 years. And they continue to peddle the nonsense despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. But the false judgment in the face of external reality speaks volumes about the character of those who peddle these nonsense, or this nonsense. Lest we forget, as the one who led the implementation of the most significant infrastructure development in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, I am forced to remind us all what was done under the Harris-led government over the period of 2015 to 2020. 1. We resurfaced the entire runway at the Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw Airport, along with the three taxiways, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. 2. We installed brand new solar lighting on the airport runway. COVID-19 intervened and the apron parking was not completed and still needs to be addressed even as I speak to you. We resurfaced the entire Island Main Road and we built resilience at Old Road Bay, and it will never be the same again from windstorm or rain. We built a brand new East Bus Line terminal and refurbished the West Bus Line terminal. 5. We constructed a brand new fully air-conditioned ferry terminal. Nothing like that within the OECS. We installed modern traffic lights in Basseterre. Every time I drive down Bird Rock and I see that non-functioning traffic light there across from Rams, Best Buy, Rams, whatever it's called, and it had to be to adjust. As I listened to something today, the business owned by the Mr. Misappropriator, those lights are still not functional. But I suggest to the incumbent Minister of Public Infrastructure, don't do like your predecessor. Act like you're in government. You must act like you're in government and get those lights functional. I'm not blaming you for anything, but your predecessor didn't act like he was in government. 7. We constructed a state-of-the-art second cruise pier that can accommodate 2 Oasis-class ships, 2 of the world's largest ships simultaneously at one time. I looked down the port today and I saw 2 ships alongside today. I think they were celebrity cruises. And you'll see much more of that as the season continues. But I have thought long and hard about the proposition that unity has done nothing in the last 7 years. I have thought long and hard about that proposition, and I finally convinced myself that they may be correct. Yes, they may be correct. Because when I reflect on the African proverb, which goes like this, and I quote, "Until lions have their historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter." Let me repeat that. Until lions have their historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter. And those in the government are behaving like hunters, so expect them to glorify themselves. But we can also find comfort in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, and I quote, "We are not makers of history. We are made by history." I asked the question, was Timothy Harris made by history? Some may say, hell no. But many would say, yes, he was. Many would say, certainly. The way he managed our debt crisis, the way he managed our crime infestation which he inherited, and the way he managed the COVID-19 pandemic, many will objectively conclude that he was the right man or the right leader or the right prime minister for the right time. True history records performance without trying to twist the facts in order to sway your opponents or your supporters. False history depends on emotion and bias. That's why they behave and argue that way, because the history is false. They get emotional and biased. While true history only records the facts. To try to alter or destroy history and the opportunity to learn from it, because it may offend someone's delicate sensibilities, is a fool's errand and an undertaking that has no hope of succeeding. So I was happy that Denzel Douglas, or the Right Honorable Denzel Douglas, found the maturity, the courage, and magnanimity to commend the Harris-led administration whilst in Parliament. He commended the Harris-led administration for bringing the necessary legislation to deal with the pandemic. And I must commend the maturity of Denzel Douglas.
For making the initial steps, taking the initial steps by bringing the appropriate legislation, especially at the height of the pandemic, because I think it was absolutely necessary so to do. I want to commend the government, of course, before us for making the initial steps, taking the initial steps by bringing the appropriate legislation, especially at the height of the pandemic, because I think it was absolutely necessary so to do.
And yes, I must commend Douglas. But when we examine the statement, though, about not doing or doing nothing for 7 years, as I said, they may be correct. I hear you saying, what's wrong with patches? But I repeat it, they may be correct. Because the younger generation that is now leading our country speak in a different language. They are speaking in a different language. Think about it. The younger generations tend to be more experimental with language as they invent new slangs and constantly butcher, as we say in colloquial terms, butcher the English language. Research has found that young people are more likely to stray from standard English and instead create new words and phrases that set themselves apart. Think about this. When the young people say, for example, that's a bad song, they really mean the opposite. They really mean that is a very good song. If you say it's a good song, then we know your age group. But when the young people want to say that song is good, they say that's a bad song, my son. In that context, when this administration of young women and young men say that the unity government did nothing in 7 years, they mean the opposite as well. They really mean that unity has done a lot. And we know that a hell of a lot was done in the last 7 years. So try to understand what is meant, because standard English today, like the standard of any language, is a social construction. It is a social construct. As we got into the 21st century, or perhaps slightly before that time, people started using non-standard forms more and more as the social pressure to speak correctly decreased or became less important in modern society. Thinking in the alternative as well, when this younger generation, this young administration tells us that the unity government did nothing in 7 years, it may, just may be a strategy to distract us from their own plans to end, for example, the PAP, or to mend the PAP, or to append the PAP. Someone sent me this just today. Someone sent me this today, which is very interesting.
In the PAP, we had a program called the MEND program. This program was really geared towards eradicating poverty in St. Kitts. So it wasn't just $500. People were getting up to $1,500. Not only that, you'll identify within the family what type of micro business can be started. So let's say you meet a mother, and that mother is interested in baking, for example. You would give her everything that she needs to start her baking business. And so she would bake, and then she will sell her cakes, but she'll still be getting the $1,500. This $500 and the way that they're approaching it is not lifting anybody out of poverty. So we will make sure that our people who live in poverty can be alleviated for real through our MEND program, as we mend the PAP and make it better. These are not just words.
Well, we'll wait to see, because a re-registration of PAP recipients is on the way. And I navigated the Labour Party online manifesto and took a deep dive into the 7 pillars of commitment.
Pillar 1, your jobs and economy. Pillar 2, your healthcare. Pillar 3, your housing and social protection. Pillar 4, your education and scholarships. Pillar 5, your governance. Pillar 6, your sports and entertainment. Pillar 7, your environment and food security.
Under social protection, which is the third pillar of commitment of the new Labour administration, it speaks about improving PAP. Social protection, the third pillar of commitment, states improving PAP to mend, increase up to $1,500 per month. That's the commitment. Now, many people are suspicious that the re-registration process means downsizing the PAP and systematically eliminating those persons on PAP who are not supporters of the Labour Party. You heard that? The re-registration process means downsizing and systematically eliminating those persons on PAP who are not supporters of the Labour Party. How many people have access to online registration? Our poor people from down George Street, from down St. Paul's, from over here, how are they going to get online and register? There's something ulterior afoot, an ulterior motive. But the people must not be fooled. The people must not be fooled when it comes to these issues of the PAP, my Straight Talk family.
And do not be fooled. Do not let no nice show and no nice thing fool you. The $500 we are getting now from the PAP thing, it is so helpful. I wish they could triple it up. It's so helpful. It come in so handy.
So my people, do not be fooled. They promised to triple it to $1,500 and hold them to that. And mark you, as a strong proponent of continuous improvement, I welcome the introduction of measures that will reduce any corrupt practices within the PAP program. And there were issues within the PAP program, I will confess. I welcome also the introduction of processes that hopefully will improve the services and ensure the sustainability of such social safety net programs that are supported by the government. I must warn, however, that these improvements cannot happen overnight, and we risk disrupting the lives of the most vulnerable persons amongst us, and we risk possibly deepening poverty in St. Kitts and Nevis. I've seen a release coming from the Comptroller's Office indicating that Cabinet has approved of the measures to reduce duties and taxes. It says gift packages of foodstuff are allowed for the first £400, free of duties and taxes. Non-commercial imports receive a duty-free allowance of $540 or $200 off of this CIF value. And these allowances will be applied to goods landed in the Federation as of tomorrow until the 31st of December 2022. But people are hurting, and we are looking forward to the day when this new government starts to deliver on the bread and butter issues. And it is a good sign that the new government has recognized that it is not on a honeymoon, but it is really working. It is commendable that they have recognized that they are not on a honeymoon, but in fact, they are working, my people.
On a honeymoon, but we are really working. It takes courage to make some of the tough decisions that have to be made. We must also recognize that we have to deliver for the people. And the people expect us to deliver. There are a number of critical things, and that is why the member from number 2 said that we are not on a honeymoon, but we are really working. It takes courage to make some of the tough decisions that have to be made. We must also recognize that we have to deliver for the people. And the people expect us to deliver.
Yes, we all expect the new government to deliver. Many have called me and asked me to remind you, Prime Minister Drew, of your Labour administration's commitments like these.
Order of business for a new government, we will raise the national minimum wage to EC $500 per week. We shall reduce the VAT rate from 17% to 13%.
The people are waiting anxiously. The people are expecting jobs, housing, and disposable income, or greater disposable income, I should say, to cope with the ever-increasing cost of living. The new Drew administration has a tough record to match if it is going to do better than the Unity that did nothing in 7 years. That's my story tonight, and I am not going to change it. I will now open the lines and entertain your calls and your emails and your views. Just remember, on Straight Talk, everyone is entitled to his or her own view. Everyone. We do not discriminate when it comes to expression of views. But I implore you to respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned, and let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. Let us, in saying and or doing those things, hope they will be beneficial to all concerned. And in saying and doing those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. The numbers are 663-6672, that's the local number, and or 646-829-6672. The email address is straighttalkpatches@gmail.com. That's one word. straighttalkpatches@gmail. Tell me, if you agree with Drew and his supporters that the Team Unity government did nothing in 7 years. I alluded to some things. I may have forgotten quite a lot of things because the list is much longer, certainly, than the one I referred to. Unity did nothing in 7 years. That's the view of some. But facts are facts, and we cannot change the facts. As we said before, the old proverb where the hunters are in government. Lions have no historians. Tales of the hunt, therefore, shall always glorify the hunter. Or the right reflection of that proverb is, until lions have their historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter. It's 8:49. I go to the lines and I say, good night, caller. You're live. Hello, caller.
Good night. Good night, another person.
Good night, my brother. Could you turn your equipment or your radio down?
Oh, I think I know what it is. Let me...
Please.
One second. Let me get it. Are we okay now?
Yes, I want the whole world to hear you. No, you still,
Okay.
I'm still getting the feedback from you.
Let me see.
Yeah, please, just move away, just turn it off and listen to the telephone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's much better. Thanks a lot, my brother.
Right. I think this thing was coming through. Right. What I want to raise with you, Honorable, is that I realize that this honorarium has been an issue that has not been dealt with properly. And it seems as if it was a linchpin to the campaign promises of the St. Kitts Labour Party. And when you raise issues, the issue surrounding who should benefit and who should not benefit, it seems as if it is a problematic one. And so today on this very station, I raised some concerns with the host of a program. And I would like to raise the issues again, because you remember SNRO number 8, which clearly stipulated who these frontline workers were and are. Yes? And no, none of the hotel workers who worked during the pandemic, who, as SNRO number 8 clearly stated, that those who work in quarantine facilities and ferry operators and taximen were treated as frontline workers. And so I'm asking the question now, why is it that these hotel workers are excluded? There are persons of the view that the hotel workers are not government workers. However, they were carrying out functions that were required by the government.
But let me ask you a question. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. The SR&O you referred to, does it speak to frontline workers or essential workers?
It in fact it did not say essential workers, it said frontline workers.
It does say that? Yeah?
Okay. It did not say essential, it said frontline. I want you to double check though. If I'm making an error, I stand corrected. But what I read was it did say frontline workers.
Okay, well, I was depending on my memory, but you'll set me researching here now. But I'll check it out. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. So the reality of it is, Brother Patrick, is that it cannot be treated this way. Even if it is a scenario where these persons were on the front line, the hotel workers were on the front line, they were the ones facing the brunt. As a matter of fact, a young lady who was accused, of spreading the COVID in the country, if my memory serves me right, I remember that situation clearly. So I'm saying that this ought to be something that the government ought to look at. Room taxes were collected for using these quarantine facilities. Persons visited St. Kitts that did not intend to stay more than a week, but ended up staying 2 weeks because they were in quarantine. So there must be some way in which the government could meet the hotel workers, even if you pay them half of what you pay the government workers. Because these people face the brunt of being on the front line. So, I really believe the government needs to look into this, because this was a linchpin to their campaign. And this was a major pillar of their campaign.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be devil's advocate though. But should the government pay those workers in the private sector, or should they encourage the private sector establishment to pay the workers, or give the workers an honorarium? What do you think?
Well, you see here the challenge you have with that, Ambassador. The thing is, it is the government who opened up Pandora's box, Because the moment when you start to say you're issuing an honorarium, persons are now going to be looking on it to see how they qualify. The government cannot dictate to the hotels and to the private sector operators to pay an honorarium. It was not the private sector operators who came up with the idea of an honorarium. It was the government. It was a matter of fact, let's put plainly stated, it was being dismissed with Labour Party whilst in opposition. So therefore, this should have been something that should have been thought out properly. Similarly, like what used to happen in the Parliament on Thursday, to move away from this. The skip-up legislation which has been amended, right? This was an afterthought. You created a Ministry of Investment. You had within that Ministry of Investment the body and the bulk of the whole work that deals with investment comes from outside of the CBI and skip-up. And you had nothing in the new appointment of the current Minister of Investment and Foreign Affairs to give him that body of work. So it's clear that this is a government that is, whilst they go along, they're learning on the job.
I got you very interesting proposition there, my brother. Should the
So I want to just give you a medium to urge the Prime Minister and to urge Minister Martha Anderson, who is also the Minister of Labour and Tourism, to look at this issue. Room taxes were collected. I would love to have an idea of how much was collected during the period of the pandemic while these workers worked. If it means you have to meet with the employers and say you pay 50% and you pay 50%, but you cannot mandate private sector companies as to what to do. So therefore, you should just come up and pay your part. You collected taxes.
Okay.
So just allow the line for somebody else, Ambassador.
Thank you very much for your sound intervention, your commentary. Very thought-provoking, but I'm sure the others would have perhaps a similar view or an opposite view, but let's hear what the other people would have to say. But thanks for
Thank you, my brother.
Should the government pay an honorarium to those in the hotel? That's the question being raised. It's been talked about. I was trying to find, I think one of the issues really though, and I recall when that piece of legislation or the regulation was being put together, the idea really was behind you identifying what was called essential workers. So when you had the lockdown, these were allowed to travel. Once you have your ID, your personal identification must be carried at all times. But the essential workers included like the police, defense force, fire rescue, NEMA, the hospital, air and supports, yes, the supermarkets as well were also open, and the list goes on. But I think the issue comes as it relates to the front line, and that's where the difficulty arises. Caller, you're live. It's 3 before 9 o'clock. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Good evening, Patrice.
Good evening, Professor. How art thou?
Oh man, the pigeon following thou. The pigeon following thou.
I don't follow the pigeon. But how it goes, really?
Pigeon following thou.
Wow.
Don't remember thou outsmart the pigeon, you know. Remember, I tell you, when you go down in Mount Shot volcano, I'm coming with you.
Coming with me, yes. You did say that.
Okay. Anywhere you go, I am coming with you. Even if the water look rough, I'm still coming with you, Patrick.
Thank you, my brother. Wherever I go, you go. And I'm not going without you, either.
Definitely. Good. Let me tell some people good night. Good night, Alice. Good night, Jam Dong. Good night, Iron. And good night, Frederick Doyle. And Maisie. Those are some of my warriors. That is my mother always say. When you see Guinea board keeping foul company, is when one Guinea board wing break. And I've noticed it. So, and both of feather flock together except for when one is damaged. So don't expect them who telling the load of lies that the unity government ain't do nothing in 7 years. I know for sure the unity government did not supply a broke investor who come here with the pocket them suffering from economic starvation. They said they come here to invest our Southeast Peninsula. Come here, broke like a dead rat, and get our money from our bank to borrow to go over there. When you're going to invest, work with your money. So the unity government ain't do that. So they ain't see that. But I'm going to show you something. Don't expect them to talk the truth, all the times. Don't expect them so, because what they're doing now, most of what they're doing is what we're doing in the pipeline. And like you, I commend them when they change up certain things and they do it right. Things that they meet doing wrong and they change it up, I commend them for that. Anybody I commend for that. Now you see the load of passport that we are selling? I'm never in favor of that, We had Cain and Abel killed Cain, and he had nothing to fall back on. So therefore he has now to go and lean upon what was there from Pam. Continue with the passport them. And then you see what the passport does to our little country? Disrespect we who born here and in Nevis. Like the woman of Nevis on the beach. She got there as a citizen by investment in passport. And the same thing happened here in St. Kitts to we house over Frigate Bay and the beach down by Mr. Martin restaurant. Is a citizen put that there. And that they went down under the former Labour administration, not under the Unity administration. And it seemed like the house will stay right there until Jesus Christ come back on this earth. So all of that there is what we have to contend with people who buy our passport and come here and want to knock us out. I heard a man say something this week here, not too many days ago, and I listened him good. He said what he would like the new government to do is to get a second prosecutor because too many loopholes are there to be filled. Those were his words. Too many loopholes. Well, I could tell he was the biggest one to pass to the loophole. Because them not in a loophole, them is what you call tear-back gate. And he was coming through them tear-back gate for months and years, collecting taxpayers' money, and he working for it. And he admit and you confirm that he did that. So when he gonna say that a lot of loophole there to be filled, he is his passage to the loophole them. And that is Mr. Trustman. I'll come back. If you somebody a space to come in.
Thank you for your contribution, my dear brother. And in relation though to the PAP and the men, I was reminded that when Team Unity took office in 2015, there was in fact some just over 30 families or more who were signed up to this MEND program. And there was an equivalent, I'm told, in Nevis called RISE, which was more successful in terms of small business development and so on. And yes, the MEND program paid $1,500. But there were some onerous obligations, I'm told, whereby some of the participants felt that the government controlled them. And there were seminars, and if you missed any sessions, you would not be paid. So Unity decided to do the PAP, and it was meant to be done in 2 phases. Phase 1, widening the reach of persons in need of assistance to do the greatest good for the greatest number of persons. And phase 2, which was about to be launched, I'm told, would have entailed recipient review and a case management component supported by the National Household Registry. And in this way, it would continue giving and would be streamlined to assist persons, who graduate out of the program where possible and found employment support, educational advancement, skills training, etc. And this would have made room for new entrants or new beneficiaries. The review as well would have eliminated some persons who are no longer eligible based on their surpassing the $3,000 per month household income. So, yes, we ought to be suspicious, and we are suspicious of what are the plans and how they are going to introduce these plans, my Straight Talk family. So, the re-registration process means downsizing and systematically eliminating those persons on PAP who are not supporters of the Labour Party. And that's a strong view of some people, or many people I should say, in terms of this plan to address the PAP.
Not be fooled. Do not let no nice show and no nice thing fool you. The $500 we are getting now from the PAP thing, it is so helpful. I wish they could triple it up. It's so helpful. It come in so handy.
And that's the feedback from many people. And that's a lady, some 80 years old. Let's take some emails here while I await your calls. And this email reads, well said, Mrs. Henry. On Inside the News last Saturday, the NIA did pass the Integrity Act. The female caller out of Nevis who made a futile attempt to disparage and denigrate your good name only made a public fool of herself, coupled with the host who started laughing. They were just laughing at themselves. The visions are saying it is in some favor. Now she wants to beg the new government. In some favor, she now wants to beg the new government. Keep up the good works, Miss Henry. You are unparalleled, reads this email. This other email reads, and this is really a press release sent dated July 2022, a PLP press release. See, I can get some other email in the meantime. All the lies and concocted stories they perpetrated against Dr. Harris, how he's spending the country's finances in an orgy, so any incoming administration will meet an empty treasury. Not so at all. The new Prime Minister has discounted the false accusations when he declared that he found the treasury in good financial health, in a good financial healthy state. Dr. Harris must be highly commended for leaving a plethora of finances in the treasury to pay double salaries and to carry on several major projects that is so evident for all to see. Long live Dr. Harris, reads this email. It's now 8 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. And my Straight Talk family, we are looking at the caption tonight, my thesis, unity, government did nothing for 7 years. And for those who have just joined me, believe it or not, I agreed. And I agreed because the young generation, as I said earlier, that is now leading our country, speak in a different language. The young generation tend to be more experimental with language as they invent new slangs. They butcher our English, as we say. And research has found that young people are more likely to stray from standard English and instead create new words and phrases that set themselves apart. And I made mention of, or gave you a simple example, and I'm sure you hear it all the time. A new release is out, like Socrates has a nice calypso out, and I passed someone and they said, boy, Socrates got a bad song he released. Bad song. But they really mean the opposite. They really mean that Socrates has released a good song. In that context, as I said, when this administration of young women and young men say that the unity government did nothing in 7 years, they too mean the opposite. They really mean that unity has done a lot. And we know that a hell of a lot was done in the last 7 years. So try to understand and don't get upset. Try to understand what is meant, because standard English today, like the standard of any language, is a social construct. And as we got into the 21st century, or perhaps before that, people started using non-standard forms more and more as the social pressure to speak correctly became less important in modern society. It's modern language. And think in the alternative as well. When this young generation, this young administration tells us that the unity government did nothing in 7 years, it may also be a strategy to distract us from their own plans. They plan to end the PAP, but they call it mend the PAP. Or are they going to append the PAP? And I navigated the 7 pillars. They promised to pay $1,500 on the PAP. We will hold them to that. This other email reads, Ras, Aya, and Eli X, very good to hear you on issues a couple of Fridays ago, praising the good work of the late Brother Zambo. Yes, he was a very good philanthropist, assisting many in need. However, Ras Eli, we need to hear your vociferous and strident voice calling for an inquiry into his death. There is tangible evidence available that Sam can provide. So why no police action is being taken? Brother Eli, not even a coroner's inquest has been considered. What a shame, reads this email. This other email reads, I trust that you are well, Mr. Liburd. Good evening, and had a blessed weekend. Thanks for an enlightening program on Thursday. It seems as though you'll have to do the job of the Fourth Estate. We still need to know the status of the Governor General, as well as the quantity of CBI passports being sold, and a breakdown by country. On another note, despite the disrespect meted out to the former Prime Minister Dr. Harris, at the swearing ceremony and later in Parliament, he can handle himself whether or not he has the support of the other members of the opposition. Do continue to keep us informed despite the detractors. This other email reads, Patches, this government is taking poor people of this country for a ride, and it seems like it is going to be a long one. During the elections, or the election campaign, I heard them say that they have the program better than PAP. They said $500 was nothing, and they are going to make it more efficient and better. This program, they say, was ready to go since before 2015 election. So why is this taking so long? They had 7 years to perfect it. It should be ready now. They think people stupid. Read this email. Let's go back to the lines at 9:15. Caller, I thank you for holding. You're live. Hello, caller? Are you there, caller? Caller, you live.
How are you doing?
I am peaceful, my brother. Yourself?
Yeah, good thanks. I'm giving thanks for life, and blessed night to your listeners via radio and internet. And give thanks, Brother Patches, for the indulgence of your word sound within your information. We're just coming out of the mountain area, not too long within a Bastille. So, I'm thankful for what my little ears have here for the night. Now, tell the emailer what I say. I could talk from my aspect to what I state when the 14th of October was outlined of the 11 years ago of the death of Rat Zambo, Noel Heath. And we in faith to bring our concern to the foremost of the administration or even police officer, but we just taking our livelihood in a humble and a wise way, because when we educate and execute what needs to be executed, it will be for the good cause. You could talk. Brother Patrick, you answer something?
No, I'm listening to you, my brother. You're making a contribution. Are you finished?
Yes, so I just said we will do what we have to do, because we ain't have no fear or favor in no part of no political parties, not even in the Mason, who we know was the artist taker behind the murder of our elder patriot, and we have no fear to call and say what we have to say, but the time will be executed wisely. That's our real step for tonight, because when we speak, and when we do have to speak, we speak with the way that needed to be speak in the eyes of man, woman, and children. And we won't have no fear of speaking what we need to be speak, because the truth we reveal. And I would like to say, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. When you say we, who are you referring to, though?
We know who we're referring to. You can't be a party, but a party, because we know knowledge, we know how we expand within our knowledge of dialogue, and with you. We do.
I'm sorry.
I will just say this here. The Nyabingiti Akusiada is a foundational order that was outlined by the works of Brother Zambo.
Okay, so that's the we then. That's the we.
That's the way we go forward. Okay, because we know
that's what I was
never let them.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to establish that, So you're saying the we is in Nyabingiti.
It's the one of the movement here, and we're hiding it.
Okay.
We're not hiding it. The justice must prevail. We would like to say something on your discussion towards those crooked senators that those administrators have in their parliament. You see? Because you can't tell me that was a couple of years ago, Sam Kando and the former Prime Minister was adamant about the increase of senators under the former administration of Denzel Douglas, 2014 going on to 2015. Remember that, Patrick?
Yes, I remember that well. I remember that well. They objected strongly.
How did that today? Sam Kanda is telling us as a people that is a good thing to see how these senators flow to the ministers. It's a hypocritical word that he goes around here. That's what I'm glad me not voting, because all of this here may that be challenging him from the head go.
You see? So these people can't make statement like them and don't live by what they say. I will just say this here clearly. Those senators need to take a step back and just do a senatorial work. You can't be a minister because you don't know the framework of what ministerial posts mean. And I ain't fear to say so. You have none under your practice and you have none under these kind of administration again. It's a failure we see around here when these senators have a lot of high intake position when they're not voted by the people. It's a shame. I hope that we could really see some change in the dialogue when it comes to constitutional amendment, because those senators need to take themselves and sit back and relax. Learn. Yeah, you can make a contribution. You can hold a ministerial work because some of you all don't socialize around the context of the community that you all are employing or a ministerial post them around. I mean, if you have to say so, I could call them to never hold. We send from calling them because when we're ready, we will execute it. We have in the parliament, so the guy and I have to tell one of them, I have to say, waiting for all the parliamentarians them. It's a shame. You having a security detail when you wasn't voted for, it's a shame that be. But me have none post against the people. But I'm just saying, it's time now we do things in a proper way. Blessed Lord, brother Patrick. We say we come to make things better, but we come to even worse and worse. And I always say, I'm glad I'm not part of that system because if me that is a part of that, I would have break it on one time. And when I mean break it, I mean serious education because this time now we bring the people them to realize change for the bed, not for the worse. And I'm glad to see these things here need to take a challenge. And so I'm glad me to read, you know. Because I'm not playing a dummy. I'm not playing a dummy around in this society. Blessed love, guidance.
Rasael.
Yes.
I've always told you, and I'm forced to tell you again, right? It is your right, as you have a freedom of choice, not to vote. But because of people like you who do not vote, is why we get the bad politicians. So you have to exercise the franchise.
You always use that quotation, and I always end it with this here about the practice. The politician them ain't bad, you know. It's just that they get misguided when they see this latter impact of the call, as they call it, economical consulting within as investment capital and even in the tourism industry. So, but when you look at it in the final analysis, them not use the money wisely. A lot of them. That's what I say. We could put these here because right now I wait until the end of November when the budget is processing. I'm looking at what this administration is looking for 2023. So my mind is setting on these ground levels here because when they input what they say, have they to look at guiding the people them in a safety net, ready to challenge because no rich man and rich woman not sit down only comfortable and poor man suffering under this economical stability. We're tired of this stupidness on here. It's time now we start rising up the people. Not by enough force, but guidance. Bring guidance to the people in care and love. And we were able to wake up and change the society that we're living under. Blessed love. Have a safe night.
Have a safe night as well, my dear brother Ras Ayo. Always very assertive, always to the point. And as I always tell him though, you know, when good people like him stay away from the vote, we get bad politicians like the ones you refer to. And you raise a point, and yes, there was a big song and dance and lots of objection back then when Douglas increased the senators. He had his senator bill. I also go back further nonetheless when we had the first time I recall when a senator was made a full-time minister. It was Halvor Hendrickson. And everybody cried foul because Halvor was made a minister of government when no one voted for him. And some of the same people you referred to just now raised holy hell. Raised holy hell. And Halvor eventually was relieved of his ministerial duties. Remember, Halvor was Minister of Public Infrastructure public works and SCELEC and so on, right? But times have changed and people tend to forget, you know. And as you said, people are not consistent with their objections to things. Patches, I saw in a PLP News bulletin that Team Unity had plans to build a brand new airport. I did not know that. Could you tell us if true, where that airport was to be built? Tell us on this show tonight. We are watching and listening. Thank you, Patches. Well, there was discussion really of constructing a new terminal. It was not finalized. There was no funding source, but there was a proposal, number one, in terms of providing or really designated, I should say, RLB as an international hub. But that was a nonsense idea which was brought to the cabinet by then Minister of Tourism. If we recall, it was rejected, and if you recall, it went over to Nevis, and we heard nothing of that. Remember, General Powell was made a director, and that was presented, and the Vance Amory Airport was made a hub. But there's always nonetheless a plan, there's always a master plan for the development of the airport. So the airport expansion would be on the side, the airport terminal would go westward. There were options of east, but I think westward was the better option. But no funding was actually identified. Caller, you live. Hello, caller.
Patches, good night.
Good night, my brother. Jam down.
Patches.
Yes, sir.
I want to second emotion. My brethren Raphael and Elias. And I want to go on the record in saying that Zambia supposed to investigate and got a proper inquest. I just don't want to support that. Especially a man who puts so much resources in the ruling government at the moment. Man should be ashamed of himself to treat Zambia like that. Patches, that's enough for that. Patches, I personally feel that all security forces and security during the pandemic should have get money. Especially some of these people like in the Pelican Mall, the port get. But do it properly and lobby with the private sector to give some of these security money. It can't look right and it is just saying so right. Because they told us they're going to do a better job. That's what they told us. They're going to do a better job. Come on, guys. Think it's people and stupid enough. And we know that the squeeze ain't on yet, you know. The squeeze by December, because patches and patches like us is war continue by December. God's willing. With what's going on in this groceries with food, it's time to tell the police. Because up to now, man who said they're going to do it better ain't stepping up, you know, and poor people are suffer. That's enough. Fear up in the culture.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. Yes. Patches, the money that is being given out every month reads this email. Where is that money coming from? The source of it. Thank you. Reads this email. Well, I can only speculate. It's coming from the Treasury, my dear brother. It's coming from what they call revenue. That's the source of the funds. Caller, you live. Hello, caller?
Yeah, Patches, I'm back again, man. Yeah, I'm back again. I here to support Jam Down and Oya with Zambia debt. When Zambia gets shut down, I was in America. And then my madam called me, my wife called me and tell me, well, she tell me I must be strong. Then I know something I don't want to hear coming. And so she tell me, they shot Zambo. I said, what? Well, anyway, over the years we've been hearing the song boy that you play. When Sam say that meeting was supposed to be held between he, Albert Henderson, and Zambo. For Zambo to get to know how he can get back the money. And the meeting never come off. Next thing, bam, Zambo shot to death. And like Zambo yesterday, no inquiry upon that. 11 years, but they ain't gonna do it again. Why? Why a man like he got to be treated like that? Zambo used to look after the whole village. Christmas time, he look for the elders them and give them what they want. And even if you ain't old, and you go up and you go to Zambo, you say, boy, go to Zambo. I got a thing there to do with. And he can say, okay man, go with it. A lot of people could confess to that. Zambo was very helpful. But anyway, let's move on to something else. Sam should be ashamed of himself to say that Douglas is the best thing. And he got up in Parliament and he was against increasing the senators them like I said. And now look at him, hear him, the best thing to run the country, Douglas. Why? What happened? Let's have the reason why he turned like lime juice. He said the reason why he condemning Timothy performance and as a leader and comparing it to Douglas when he don't throw down Douglas all over solid waste and saying Douglas is bad for the country. Now he coming back. But people, we have a way to say some politicians are lawyers, you know. And you're seeing it every day. Now, one more thing I'm going to know. Patters, they got some people here. Law and order in this country, it break right down. And it look like nobody doing anything to enforce the laws of the land. He had some people used to take bicycle and put on a motor and got it like a motorcycle up and down the street. Not noisy, son, no license, no nothing. And the police had cracked down on it. And it come back again. And they all over town. When it ain't two-wheel bicycle pop wheeling, it's four-wheel mountain bike pop wheeling in the street, all kind of pop wheeling. We are calling on the police them and whosoever is responsible to see that the law is enforced with these things. Do something about it. Because when people do what nobody expect them to do, that is the time everybody go up and down the place and say we have to do this. That is, you have a good night so long. If anything, I'll come back.
Have a good night, my dear brother. It's now 28 minutes before the 10 o'clock hour. It's 28 before 10, 9:32. And if you're just joining us, my Straight Dog family, we looked at the topic. The topic raised tonight is unity did nothing, or the unity government has done nothing in 7 years. What's your view? The unity government did nothing in 7 years. And I raise the point that, in fact, it is a nonsense. I also raise the point as well, and in relation to the disrespect showed to the second longest serving member in the Parliament, Timothy Harris. And whether we like it or not, Constituency 7, or as it's called, St. Christopher 7, has reposed their confidence in Harris for the last 30 years. And he ought to be accorded with respect in the parliament in which he has been serving for nigh 30 years. The only one who has served longer in that parliament is Denzel Douglas. And I raise the point in my observations that there is an anomaly on the opposition benches that ought to be rectified. It ought to be rectified come the next sitting of the parliament. And I'm duty bound to raise it. There are 4 long-serving members in parliament, 3 on the opposition benches and 1 on the government bench. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas is the longest serving parliamentarian, having been elected in 1989. Harris then was elected in 1993, I think it was. So Harris is now 30 years in the parliament and Douglas 33, going on to 34. Sean Richards, I believe, was elected in 2005, so he's the 3rd longest serving member, followed by Mark Bradley. So how on earth you can have the 2nd longest serving member in parliament on a backbench in the opposition? And that has to be rectified, and rectified right away. Now, if, as I said, if that was the choice of the member from number 7, then it is an anomalous choice. It is a bad choice. It is inconsistent with normal parliamentary protocol. Thus, if it was not his choice, however, then former Prime Minister Harris and the 2nd longest serving member in the Assembly must be accorded the full respect that he has earned over the nigh 30 years as an outstanding parliamentarian, no matter what you try to say. It's hard to dispute that. He has made outstanding contributions in the parliament, and he ought to be accorded the respect. And if the opposition leader has come with a hanky-panky to put a member who has just served 2 years in the parliament on the front bench, then something is wrong with that. He has to man up, be matured, and ask that member to sit on the back bench and have the 3 longest serving members on the opposition bench sitting on the front bench. Could you imagine Douglas sitting on the back bench on the government? That will never happen. He's accorded the respect, and so too we must accord the respect to Harris. I also raise the second issue, which I will continue to raise as long as I am blessed with the breath of life. I will continue to seek out information on the CBI. I am not going to be like a palace guard, I said. Straight talk is not about that. And I said before that in 2018, the latest figures we got on the CBI, we were told that some 16,544 applications for citizenship were approved. So it stands to follow that some 16,544 passports have been issued. But that was 2018. Now 4 years on, we understand that the figures of passports, the amount of passports out there are approximately 30,000 passports. And the country needs to know. Straight Talk was reliably informed as well that the new Prime Minister has signed some 1,500 applications for citizenship since taking office in August. He has not denied that. He has made no comment on that. And the country needs to know. If that's the new paradigm in transparency, then let us know. But I am speaking for the voiceless. There are many people who are afraid to talk. And I am speaking for them. I've volunteered for years to speak for the voiceless and to speak the truth. I've always warned you, do not be afraid to speak the truth. But again, we have gone back to that stage where people are afraid to speak the truth because they're afraid that they will have to stand alone. But as I said, if the overall amount of passports have gone to 30,000 in number that have been issued, then that must be a great concern for we the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. That has not been denied. The information has to be there. Why is it hidden from the people? And this has been the pattern of secrecy that goes back to 2012 when Douglas introduced the SIDF option. And I'm saying we must pass that stage and give people information. Caller, you're live.
Yes, Mr. Liburd, good night.
Yes, sir, good night. How about thou?
I'm blessed. And I want to say good night to each and everyone from Mr. Dr. Culture, Manners, Alice, the whole team. I want to tell you all of them, have a happy good night. Mr. Liburd, you speak about the longest parliamentarian, Dr. Douglas?
Yes, Dr. Douglas, yes.
Don't you think it should be Dr. Harris should be the longest serving parliamentarian? Because remember when Dr. Douglas boycott parliamentarian?
He boycott?
Could you remember that? Yeah, he boycotted the opening of parliament twice.
That doesn't make it.
Could you recall that? Yeah?
Yeah, but that doesn't take away his years.
That doesn't take away.
No.
I was thinking about.
No, once if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, I believe, without excuse granted by the speaker, then you should be all right. I think he was going. I think you were going down the road when he was the court stripped him of his status in Parliament because of the passport issue. But I think he stayed out. If you subtract that, I think that's only about a year, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, because he boycotted Parliament 2 years.
When you say boycott,
But anyhow,
he was thrown out of the Parliament.
No, he never thrown. He didn't come to Parliament to answer his name as a parliamentarian.
Not for 2 years.
Under Team Unity. When Team Unity went in office, he boycotted
No,
the session.
That's true. We had several debates with Douglas in there.
Okay, anyhow, let us move on.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed with the behavior over at the Marriott.
Many people are, yes.
It was something put planned for them to try to bring on Dr. Timothy Harris when he was called up to swearing and they started booing. So it was looking bad, sounding bad, and the speaker had to explain to them, call and tell them that she have to let them to understand, look, this behavior is bad. That she didn't come out and say so. All she had to say, order, for them to step down from what the behavior. And it wasn't looking good. If you look on television, it wasn't looking good at all. And it wasn't sounding good at all for someone who was just then the Prime Minister of this federation, the third Prime Minister of this federation, and the way how they went on with him as well, he is somebody. And he should have never been. But I don't think it already happened, and Dr. Timothy Harris is not studying them, and he's moving on by doing people's business. And I think the Speaker, the Attorney General, all of them have to put something in place by respecting people who was in Parliament as ministers in government to behave themselves, as long as they're in the gallery, to behave themselves. Listen, you come in to listen and to learn, not to distract people who want to put down something on the table for people to understand what's going on. And I'm very hurt about it. And the same guy who called the Prime Minister a big son, still talking about he want to shake hands and COVID card and all of these things. He should be put out of the Marriott by some security. Anyhow, these things already done. We have to move on and do the people's business. But the Attorney General and them, I think they're making a mockery of the position they have and not coming out and telling the people the truth. And this present Prime Minister, which is his fourth Prime Minister, I am disappointed with him when he's saying he haven't done nothing for 7 years. 7 years that community haven't done anything. It is a disgrace. And I think he should come up and apologize to the people, because he was a doctor at the time when they had the COVID, and he know what took place with the COVID, what restriction, what protocol they had to put in place, and coming out and thinking all about what the past president, Prime Minister, and then did. We want to say the country should have done open long time. People, family dying, and people had to bury their family early in the morning. People who it was a disgrace for him to be coming on and speaking that as though he has something against Dr. Timothy Harris. You, in the Prime Minister, you're supposed to be able to show example. You have a pleasant good night, Mr. Liburd. I'm very disturbed.
And you ought to be, brother. Thanks for your input. Thanks for your intervention. Always straightforward and to the point. It's now 12 before the 10 o'clock hour. I go straight back to the lines. Calling you live. Hello, caller.
That is.
Yes, sir.
That is.
Yes, my dear brother. You're live.
I think the caller makes some valid points here. The Attorney General and the current Prime Minister and the Speaker, we on the road, we will not accept them kind of that long time where they take to bring order. Order should have come long time. And the Prime Minister, when he gets a chance to talk, he was to let both Labour, UPP, stand the benches and the chairs them in there to now saying that in the National Assembly. But you see, when they play dirty politics, this is how we go. Have a good night, Patrick. This jam long talking, eh?
Have a good night, my dear brother. Patches reads this email. This mend the pap they talking about is just fancy talk for delaying it. They need to start the re-registration now. We are going into November now, so by December, poor people should be getting the assistance they need to live a better life. This is the first thing they should have done. Do they really care about the poor and needy or just themselves? The poor can't take no more. Reads this email. Patches, can someone show the hypocrisy of the new government by a show of hands? How many members of parliament were vaccinated against COVID-19? Reads that email. Good night, Patches, reads this other email. Interesting topic tonight again. When the truth is being presented, the naysayers always try to crush it. Shame on the hypocrisy of those folks saying that Unity Party did nothing for 7+ years that they occupied the parliament. It is impossible to measure 7+ years against the 20 years that Denzel Douglas ruled the people of the Federation of St. Kitts with an iron fist. What did Douglas accomplish for his 20 years? Truth is truth, and it speaks volumes in spite of the Labour folks spewing lies like a dripping faucet. These folks have decided to turn a blind eye to all that Unity accomplished. However, everyone do know the truth, and the truth speaks for itself. Everyone should give credit to any party occupying the House for their accomplishment. Harris has been accused of many things, yet every lip is mum on the charges he's been accused. Mr. Harris has done nothing that the other party hasn't done. However, these non-campus mentis folks have decided to try him outside a court of law and found him guilty. Mr. Harris accomplished more in 7.5 years than what Douglas could not accomplish in 4 terms. Mr. Harris is to be commended for a job well done. To the naysayers, I say, shame on all of you for your hypocrisy, reads that email. It's 8 before the 10 o'clock hour. We'll take a few more calls before we wrap. And remember, if you're joining me for the first time, Straight Talk is heard every Monday and Thursday from 8 to 10 in the PM. We also, not just on Facebook and YouTube, we also on WinFM Radio as our partner station, thanks to Trent and Jamster and all those Lady Mills and all those who have made it possible. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, Patrick, I endorse 100% what Frederick said and jammed on. Now, at the opening of Tuesday over the Marriott, the speaker should have not say order. Order is only for the parliamentarians, not for the people in the gallery. The speaker should have get up and let the whole audience in there know that will not be tolerated in there and it is not accepted. And those who are caught doing it, ask them to get up and go outside. Not order. So she dropped the ball there. And like they said, the Prime Minister, when Thursday gone, since he never do it Tuesday, he should have let them know what Parliament is all about. You go in the gallery, keep your mouth shut and do not disturb the people them who's supposed to be in there. Respect everybody in there. You don't go anywhere with the foolishness, but you see, what started wrong can't end right. You remember what happened in 1993 in a battle and stone to become a government? And that behavior has been reminded people all around the country, all through the year. Tell them I couldn't fight, I could do it already and I could do it again. A bad thing to burn. So the people, and there are some ignorant people still traveling with that in the head. Anyway, Dr. Harris is a gentleman. He take a lot of licks in front of his face. And when people expect him to respond, he just smile and get up. One of them there, he's so obsessed with Dr. Harris. It should be a shame myself. That boy going to put out hand to call the same person who he call him Big Stone. Well, I could tell anybody this. Dr. Harris is an honest man. Nobody going to give Dr. Harris any money to buy a fridge for them. And Dr. Harris going to carry his old dirty fridge, give the person and take the person new fridge. Dr. Harris is an honest man. So who do that? Let us ask God pardon. I tell you have a good night.
Have a good night as well, my dear brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for your intervention. It's now 5 before the 9 o'clock hour, perhaps squeezing 2 more calls. But we looked at the proposition that the unity government did nothing in 7 years. And that has been peddled far and wide. And I have thought long and hard about that proposition. And believe it or not, I found a way to convince myself that they may be correct. Because I reflected on the African proverb, which goes something like this, and I quote, "Until lions have their historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter." And those in government are behaving like hunters, so we expect them to glorify themselves. Caller, you live. Hello, caller? Yes, caller.
Patches, let to tell you, because the old man asked me to do this for him, a shut-in, to tell Dr. Harris, the minister, the representative for constituency 7, to don't leave politics before he write that book. It's some history he has bring to this country doorstep. Do not leave politics till you started to write that book and you complete it. He said he asking God to save his life to see that book. Because you have done some things in this country where he and the elder man did not expect politicians will do in thinking. That is have a good night. And God bless Dr. Harris. We know he's God. And this country needs him.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes, you're live, my dear.
This Win FM?
Yes, well, you're live on Straight Talk. It's not Win FM, but it's coming via
Okay,
Win FM.
I want it.
Hello? Are you there, caller?
Yes, good evening, Patrick.
How art thou? I can see the dimples. I can see the dimples.
I'm fine. How are you?
I am peaceful. This.
I don't know what to say to you.
Well, save this number. It's 663. 663-6672. That the number gets you to the program. Yes, we are coming via Win FM.
I just show it again because I was showing it all this time and even I tell you about out of range and something like that. So I just show it again there.
I'm happy you got him. You're my final call for the day.
Anyhow, all. I said all. who had said that Harris ain't do nothing for the 7 years. I think this is bag your head in shame and go to pray. They only want Harris because of what he can give them. And that's what they're going on. And to those, what in the House of Assembly there was saying that they can't sit down in there and listen to Harris. Then they ain't know what's really going on. No, they in the House of Assembly and they ain't know why it's going on. You could tell them that. They ain't know what's going on. They just banging them out because they got a mouth to bang. And Harris ain't have to feel no way at all. Because we out here have his back. We know what he do. And we're going to stand with him. I don't care who hate him. They hate him. That was my Prime Minister. And I don't care. The next thing that I want to say. I want to know where this country going. Is it going on top or is it going under? Because they make a lot of noise and say that the Governor General is old and he must go home, go rest himself. But it seems like they take down one old and put up another old because who they put up there, they look stronger than Mr. Seaton. Mr. Seaton can walk fast and then can walk fast neither. So, where are we going? Under or on top? And for the AG, you just all read up and down like a boya. When the government in the house, he must pass a law. And said, who coming in the Parliament must not drink strong drink when they're coming in there. But in our reading, he have a lot of work on his hands. Next week, after if I will be in the West, you have a pleasant night. Please drive home.
Thank you, my dear. Always good to hear you. Have yourself a pleasant night as well. And that's the way we're going to end it, my Straight Dog family, because my time is done and I have to run. And I want to, in the process, I want to find comfort in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who said, and I quote, "We are not makers of history. We are made by history." And ask yourselves the question, was our third Prime Minister, Timothy Harris, made by history? And I can hear some of you say, hell no. But I can hear the majority say, yes, he was. Certainly he was. Because of the way he managed our debt crisis when he took office in 2015. He managed and got rid of the crime infestation in the country. And he managed the COVID-19 pandemic, something the world did not see in a century. So many will objectively conclude that he was the right man for the right time. True history records performance without trying to twist the facts in order to sway your opponents or your supporters. False history depends on emotion and bias. That's why you see they argue and want to fight. But true history only records the facts. To try to alter or destroy history and the opportunity to learn from it, because it may offend someone's delicate sensibilities, is a fool's errand and an undertaking that has no hope in succeeding. My Straight Talk family, when we examine the statement that unity did nothing in 7 years, perhaps it's because the younger generation now leading our country, they speak in a different language. The younger generations tend to be more experimental with language. They invent slangs. Think about it. When they want to say a song is good, they tell you the opposite. That's a bad song. It's in the same context when this administration of young men and women say that the unity government did nothing in 7 years. They mean the opposite. They mean that unity has done a lot. And we know that a hell of a lot was done in the last 7 years. So try to understand what is meant, because standard English today, like the standard of any language, is a social construction. Thinking of the alternative as well, they may want to tell us that unity did nothing in 7 years because they want to distract us from their own plans to mend or end or pin the pap. That's my story tonight, and I am not going to change it. But in the process, I want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight. As always, I want to thank you, the listeners, those on Facebook and YouTube, those on Win FM, those who sent emails and those who called. All of you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that reason, I say a big, big thank you. I'm Ian Patrick Liburd, and God's spare. We will connect on Thursday for another edition of Straight Talk. Until that time, be good to yourselves and to all whom you meet. And remember that whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you got to believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Thursday. Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Jamster. Thank you, Win FM. Bye-bye.
In the morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night. For the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceives, that I will achieve, you better believe. I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. Down on my knees, the Lord I kneel and pray, my heart and soul.